Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise, get you the key insights, really help you understand what's happening. And today, well, we're diving into a really unsettling, very complex case out of Florida. It involves a middle school teacher and one of her students.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Our goal here is to unpack these really serious allegations, look at the legal side of things, and maybe most importantly, examine this vastly different stories coming out of this. We've pulled together quite a stack of sources, official statutes, news reports from various outlets, and even something pretty surprising, a direct message from the accused teacher herself. We really want to distill this down so you, our listener, can get a clear, informed view on, frankly, a disturbing situation.
Right. And the central figure here is Sarah Jacques. She was a math teacher at Corner Lake Middle School in Orange County, Florida. She's been arrested, facing some incredibly serious charges, statutory rape, other sexual misconduct counts, all involving a student who was 14 at the time.
And like I said, the sources are pretty diverse. We're looking at parts of the 2011 Florida statutes, detailed reporting from People, WKMG News 6, Click Orlando, the Daily Mail Online, and as you mentioned, that very personal YouTube video Sarah Jacques put out there herself. Quite the mix.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. How did this alleged betrayal even start? The reports say back at the start of the 2022-23 school year, the student, who was 14 then, he started eating lunch in her classroom.
Yeah, the reason given was that he apparently had issues fitting in and associating with the right crowd. So, on the surface, maybe it looks like a teacher just being supportive.
But that narrative changes pretty quickly, doesn't it?
It really does. According to the affidavit, what's striking early on is how things allegedly escalated. It wasn't just support. Jacques reportedly started to isolate him from other kids.
Isolate him. Okay.
Yeah, and the physical affection, it apparently went from, quote, chaste hugs and kisses on the cheek to molestation. And this isolation tactic, it's something often seen in grooming. It kind of makes the victim more dependent, less likely to talk to others.
And it definitely didn't just stay in the classroom or during school hours. They were texting outside of school. There's that really specific incident mentioned, right? At 1 a.m., the boy's mother finds them texting.
Exactly. She apparently saw the messages, thought it was abnormal. I mean, who wouldn't at 1 a.m. and told them both to stop?
That had to be a huge red flag for her. Just massive.
Oh, absolutely. And that 1 a.m. discovery, it seems like a real turning point because after that, the alleged communication seems to get way more secretive. After the mom stepped in, Jacques allegedly went and created a fake Instagram account. The username was Bob the Builder 11552 year.
Wow. Bob the Builder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Specifically to keep talking to the student. And not just that, she apparently told him to delete messages, so there wouldn't be a record.
So actively trying to hide it, creating secret accounts, telling him to delete things, that's not accidental.
No, it really suggests a deliberate effort to conceal what was allegedly happening, creating that shared secret, removing the evidence. Classic grooming tactics, unfortunately.
And it gets even weirder. Not just the secret account, but they supposedly had their own code.
Coded language. 115 apparently meant I miss you. That seems consistent in the reports.
Okay.
But for I love you, there's a slight difference. WKMG News said it was 520, but the Daily Mail reported 150.
Huh, okay. Slight variation there.
And a high five emoji, supposedly, that was code for a kiss.
So what does using codes like this usually signify in these kinds of alleged situations?
Well, it just adds another layer of concealment, right? It's designed to fly under the radar, bypass detection. It kind of builds this private little world between them, reinforces that us against them or shared secret feeling, which makes it even harder for the victim to tell anyone else. It really makes the communication more covert.
And then there's that alleged message. It's incredibly explicit, really disturbing. She supposedly texted him, "I just had sex with my husband and it wasn't the best, but I imagine it was you." I mean, that's just shocking. What's the significance of a message like that?
If that message is accurate, it's profoundly manipulative. It's not just crossing a line, it's obliterating it. You're forcing an adult sexual dynamic onto a child, involving him directly in her marital issues, her sex life. It's incredibly inappropriate and psychologically damaging.
Yeah.
It creates this false sense of adult intimacy and emotional entanglement while really just cementing the power imbalance. It's a clear grooming technique, pulling the victim into her adult world.
Okay, so this brings us to the alleged acts themselves. This is where it gets extremely disturbing. How did things reportedly escalate, and then how did it all start to unravel? The affidavit says about a week before spring break in 2023, the abuse allegedly happened in the classroom.
Right. She reportedly covered the classroom windows, used those active assailant curtains, which is chilling in itself, laid a pillow in a corner, and then allegedly had unprotected sexual intercourse with the student.
Unbelievable. In the classroom.
And the affidavit adds the detail that he was apparently a virgin, and she allegedly directed him on, how to do it.
It's just hard to process. That level of alleged exploitation happening right there in a school.
It really highlights that absolute betrayal of trust. The power dynamic is just immense. And importantly, the report suggests this wasn't just like a one-time thing. It allegedly happened repeatedly for 3 to 4 consecutive days, right before that spring break.
3 to 4 days. So a pattern, not just a single alleged incident.
Exactly. If the allegations are true, it suggests sustained abuse.
Okay. And then secrets tend to come out, right? How did this alleged situation start to fall apart?
Well, the sources say the unraveling happened pretty quickly after spring break. And it started with her husband.
Her husband they have a son together too, right? A 12-year-old.
Yes. He reportedly discovered what was allegedly going on. And then, get this, he allegedly posed as Jockus on that secret Instagram account. And contacted the teen himself.
Wow. Okay, that must have blown things wide open. What was her reaction when she realized he knew?
Her alleged reaction seems very focused on damage control. She reportedly called the victim from an unknown number, told him her husband found out and was threatening to report her.
Yeah.
And then she allegedly told the boy to lay low because her husband was, quote, angry.
So trying to manage the situation, keep the victim quiet.
It certainly suggests an awareness of how serious it was, yeah. And after that point, she reportedly did not return to school for the rest of that school year, just disappeared from campus.
Okay, so the alleged acts, the secrecy, the husband finding out, that leads us to the legal side. What happened once law enforcement got involved?
Well, the victim, who was 16 by this point, officially reported the alleged abuse to the Orange County Sheriff's Office on June 10th. Then, a few days later, June 16th, there was a significant step. The alleged victim called Jockus on the phone, but law enforcement was actually present, likely recording it.
So gathering direct evidence. That makes sense.
Absolutely. And that presumably played a role in her arrest, which happened on June 23rd. Her age is listed as 32 in some reports, 34 in another, but around that age. And the charges are serious. Multiple counts of lewd or lascivious battery, lewd or lascivious molestation.
Which basically means inappropriate sexual contact or activity with a minor.
Exactly, broadly speaking. And then there's the single count of statutory rape by an authority figure.
And that authority figure part is key, right? Because of the teacher-student relationship.
Precisely. It recognizes that inherent power imbalance. Even as someone might argue about consent under other circumstances, when it's an authority figure like a teacher, the law often treats it differently, much more seriously.
Got it. So she's arrested. What happened next in court?
She had her first court appearance the next day, June 24th. And she was actually released on June 25th after posting bail, which was set at $19,000.
Released pretty quickly then.
Relatively, yeah. There was that detail in the news reports about her trying to hide from cameras, putting a shirt over her head when she left the jail.
Right, I remember seeing that. What conditions did the judge put on her release?
Pretty standard for these types of cases, really focused on protection. No contact with the victim, obviously. No contact with any witnesses either. And importantly, no unsupervised contact with her own child.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about the school? What did they say officially?
The principal, Paul Browning, sent a message out to the families at Coeur Lake Middle School. He stated pretty clearly that this person will not be returning to campus pending the outcome of the investigation.
So she's out, at least for now?
Yeah, and Orange County Public Schools confirmed she was a 10-month employee, meaning she works during the school year, and is not working during the summer break. So effectively removed from her position while this all unfolds legally.
Okay, so that's the picture we get from the police, the courts, the news reports, the official story. But this is where our deep dive takes a really sharp turn, right? Because amidst all of this, the arrest, the charges, Sarah Jockus herself posts a YouTube video called "See You Later." What What was that about?
It's truly jarring, the contrast. In this video, she's talking directly to her students, saying how much she misses them, thanks for their messages. She explains she's leaving because she needs to take time away to focus on me, needs to plug away from everything.
No mention of the arrest or the allegations at all.
Not a word. Nothing about the legal situation whatsoever. It's framed entirely as a personal break.
And she's kind of vague about coming back, isn't she?
Very vague. She says she's not quitting, but then adds she doesn't know whether I'm coming back in a couple weeks or if I'm coming back never.
And she keeps telling the students it's not their fault she's leaving.
Yeah, repeatedly. Has nothing to do with you guys. It's not your fault, which, given the context of the allegations.
Right. Hearing that, knowing the accusations, it just lands differently. It's kind of chilling.
It really is. On one level, maybe she's trying to reassure kids who were confused. But if the allegations are true, telling them it's not your fault, it could be seen as manipulative, almost preempting any guilt the alleged victim might feel. It presents this image of just a caring teacher, completely separate from the legal storm, or maybe actively trying to control that narrative, especially for her students.
It's such a bizarre disconnect because she goes on to share all these really specific, personal little classroom memories, like Dexter with his plastic bag, someone named Carson's Scooby-Doo ringtone mentioning Josh's grandma, Jaden saying random things, noises in 6th period, Bubble R in 7th period. It sounds like inside jokes.
Exactly. Very specific, fond-sounding anecdotes. She even gives them academic advice about their EOC tests. That's the end-of-course state exam. And IXL, the practice website, tells them to work with the new teacher, Mr. Maslowski, help each other out. It paints this picture of a really involved, connected teacher.
Right down to mentioning missed Easter plans, hiding candy eggs for them.
Yeah. She wishes the 8th graders luck in high school, says, you can always come visit me next year wherever I'm at.
Wherever I'm at. Wow.
And ends the video with, see you later, love you.
So the contrast is it's massive, isn't it? The official narrative. Arrest, serious charges, court orders, and then her public message. Personal sabbatical, warm goodbyes, zero mention of trouble. Why is seeing that contrast so important for understanding this?
It's crucial because it shows how completely different realities, or at least presentations of reality, can exist side by side. It forces us, as people trying to get informed, to recognize that there isn't always one single, simple story. People might be trying to shape perception, send a specific message to a certain audience like her students here, or maybe it reflects some kind of internal denial or struggle with the situation. It really makes you think about the different lenses involved.
Okay, one last piece here. Let's touch briefly on a related bit of legal context you pulled. Florida's sexting statute, FS 847.0141. Now, obviously, the main charges against Jacques are way more severe than this covers. But why is this statute relevant background?
Right, this is important context. This law, from back in 2011, deals specifically with minors sending explicit digital content to other minors. It kind of sets a baseline for how Florida views harmful digital communication among young people. Understanding this helps frame just how much more serious the allegations against an adult authority figure are.
Okay, so what does this law actually say? What counts as sexting for a minor under this statute?
Basically, it defines it as a minor knowingly sending or distributing photos or videos to another minor that show nudity, like private parts or sexual acts, and are considered harmful to minors.
Harmful meaning like sexually explicit without any real value?
Yeah, generally lacking serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value for kids. The law also covers possessing that kind of stuff if you received it from another minor. But there are exceptions, like if you didn't ask for it, you reported it to a parent or the school or police, and you didn't send it on to anyone else.
Gotcha. And what are the penalties for minors under just this specific sexting law?
They escalate. A first offense is treated relatively lightly. It's a non-criminal violation. Usually means like 8 hours of community service or maybe a $60 fine, maybe some kind of educational program.
Okay.
But if that happens again, a second offense jumps up to a first-degree misdemeanor. That's a criminal charge. Could mean jail time.
Wow, big jump.
And a third offense. That becomes a third-degree felony.
Right.
Much more serious with potentially life-altering consequences.
And just to be crystal clear, this law is strictly about minor-to-minor communication, right? It doesn't apply directly to the Jacques case.
Yeah, exactly. It's peer-to-peer. The statute itself says it doesn't stop prosecution for more serious crimes, like if the images show actual sexual conduct, or if it's tied to stalking. So while it shows Florida has laws addressing digital dangers for kids, the alleged actions of Jackass, an adult teacher with a student, fall into much, much more severe criminal categories. This statute just provides background.
Okay, we have definitely covered a lot of ground here. Pulled back the layers on these really serious accusations against Sarah
Right.
Jackass, looking at the alleged relationship, the disturbing details, the legal steps taken.
And then putting that right alongside her own public message, that YouTube video, which tells such a completely different story. It's quite the contrast.
It really highlights some big themes, doesn't it? Like the power dynamics in schools, the dangers that come with digital communication, especially with minors.
Yeah, and how the legal system tries to sort through these incredibly sensitive, often conflicting accounts to find the facts. It's never simple.
So as you, our listener, are processing all this, especially with such contradictory information coming from different places, what tools or strategies do you find helpful for yourself when you're trying to sift through it all and form a well-rounded understanding, something to think about?